So, how you doing, Josh?
It was the Starler on.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Ben. Keep talking, Stella. I'm not an Olympic champion. I'm just an Olympian.
Shush your medals. Shush your medals.
Got more medals than Frank.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
How are you, Josh?
I'm I'm out of the shock of the first 6 minutes. That's for sure. It was funny when I said this to Stella the other night that I thought it'd be 2-0. To be honest, in my heart of hearts, it was an emotional response. I was just probably, hoping that they could put some sort of performance like they did with PSG midweek. But yeah, when the second goal went in far out, I just was shaking my head. I didn't have my Tottenham jersey on because I was just doing some stuff around the yard, and I thought, I'll put it on at half time. I never got it on. Frustrating, huh?
Yeah. What we keep seeing these lackluster displays. I mean, there's so many games, so many examples of it. I mean, is this purely a manager problem? Is it a personnel? I'm seeing fans come on and say, the team are not good enough. I mean, Danny called up before saying this team is pretty much where it deserves to be. Do you agree with that?
Look. For me, the thing that's unforgivable, and it sort of comes down to two things, and I try to relate it back to when I was competing. The individual is responsible for one thing, and when we were competing, we call it arousal, right? Your arousal, your sharpness to the task at hand, and that's down to the individual and the leadership group. That's their responsibility. The other thing is cohesion, right? That's up to the manager. Does the team get on the pitch? Are they clear on what they're about to do? Because it's just unforgivable. Like at home, you should own the first 10 minutes. Like you should be bullying the opposition in the first 10 minutes. You're setting the tone, for the rest of the match. And to be two goals down in 7 minutes is just extraordinary. And, like the inconsistencies that we see within the team, within, each person's playing, like for a match within a half for windows of time. We spoke about it the other night with Stel. There's a culture within the club, and it goes beyond the football department. I think it's in recruitment, it's in medical, it's in operations. It's, when you sit back sort of with my perspective, you see there's just so many cracks. And there's some other things that I was sort of thinking about, when you watch a performance like today. I think you can't underestimate the loss of someone like Sonny, Kulu, and Matters from a leadership perspective, right? And I'll just give a quick sort of story. So leading into the Summer Olympics of 2000, we had the swim team had the best Olympic performance, and that was largely down to the men. We had a really, really strong men's team. 4 years later, we improved on that performance, but it was on the back of the women, who were phenomenal for the next two Olympics. But after the Sydney Olympics, we had some pretty serious leaders in our team. Like, I'm not sure whether you guys remember people like Kieran Perkins, but I was terrified of Kieran as a young swimmer. I was more terrified of Kieran than I was the manager of the team, because I wanted him to know me and I wanted to do something special performance-wise, because he's the sort of guy that I wanted coming up and going, hey, good job, Josh. And so we had a chunk of swimmers retire in Sydney, and then in Athens we had, some more swimmers retire. But the guys from Sydney had leveled up their, leadership capabilities, so that's fine. By 2008, almost all of that team, both of those two teams, didn't exist anymore. Now in 2012, because of that lack of leadership, there were some crazy things that happened at the London Olympics. There was a Stillnox scandal where some of the senior swimmers were creating orientation type deals where, we had one guy who, if there was a walk-in for a gold medal, it was James Magnuson in the men's 100 freestyle. He lost that race by 1/100th, and he was the key instigator. He was doing this stuff the night before his final. And it comes down to the lack of leadership, right? So when you take Sonny, Kulu, Matters, and just, we've got so many new players, we've got so many young players, you're always going to get that consistency. So in a lot of situations, you can't avoid that. But when you plug that situation into a club like Spurs, it's amplified, and that's what you're seeing with the inconsistency. That's on the player side. On the manager side, he's just not formidable. There's not a manager. There's not an opposition player. You start to see the sort of things with Spence and Van der Ven, Porro. You know, that sort of character flaws, because there's not a figurehead that people are largely intimidated as a good thing. It's like when you're a kid and you're scared of your dad, that sort of fear, you know. Spurs need that. They need that.
Can you imagine any of those players showing those traits under Conte?
Yeah, he's got an edge. Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like, there is not one chance in hell.
I mean, he looks scary.
Yeah, you know, but there's not one chance in hell, right, that Spence and Van der Ven are walking past Conte. Conte tries to speak to them and they're not speaking back to him. It's never going to happen.
No chance. No chance.
Because he demands respect and demands authority.
Josh, can I ask you a question on this? You know, you talk about not commanding respect. Did he achieve that at Brentford or not? And if he did, why is he not doing it here?
I don't think he did, because when you're at a club that doesn't have the expectation that Brentford has, achieving what he achieved in an environment, it's almost like a giddy. It's like Forest last year, right? Had an amazing season, and that, I mean, there's another thing I sort of want to touch on, which is, you know, the hangover from last season's Europa win. When you do something that wasn't expected, then that event is in isolation to that window of time. Right now, what if Frank was there for another 3 seasons and didn't get higher than 10th? Right, then it by definition, the repetition of that result, the gloss is nullified, because all he could do was repeat what he'd already done. See what I'm saying? So he comes now to Spurs, where the expectations are higher, the pressure is higher, and you know, I said the other night, I don't think they should sack him. I think the reason today I felt like I had a stomach churn at 10 minutes, going, what just happened? Because the writing is now on the wall, whether they sack Frank or not. It doesn't matter. The damage is done to the brand of Tottenham Hotspur, because good luck trying to attract the type of coach that you need. It's not about getting a good coach. It's about getting the coach that Spurs need, right? And that becomes very difficult. Then you've got to couple that with the players. I actually think our squad isn't as bad as what most people say.
I agree.
I just think I think they're leaderless.
I think we both agree.
I think they have doubt. They aren't sure of what they should be doing, how they should be doing it. You know, like, how many times do we see a player try to push forward and he just doesn't have any positional support?
Yeah,
he's just literally there on his own. You know, so yeah.
Josh, let me ask you this. You're talking about mentality within the club, with, you know, every facet in the club, from the medical team to the ownership to every, you know, all the facets that you mentioned before. How do you go about improving that, changing that? Is it all about just gutting everyone out and starting again? Like, what else can you do?
Look, I mean, when you look at an organisation as big as Spurs, and there are people involved, they're human beings, right? They've got you know, families, and so you've got to, the best way to do it is to inspire, and you know, I was listening to him before, and you know when Frank was talking about, you know, we got 17th last year. The word that I thought of was de-edification, right? He was de-edifying his team. What he should be doing is edifying his team. He should be lifting his team, right? And so if you look at that principle organization wide, ideally, what sort of manager's going to, what do you think the culture or the feeling within the club is going to be if you get someone in there and they're just ruthless from the results perspective and forget about the human perspective. What you should be trying to do is come in and elevate people to be more than what they currently are. That's what edification is, right?
So when you just because I've never heard of this word before, de-edification, is that the same as talking us down, or similar? It is. Okay. I'm going to use your word next time because it sounds a lot better.
Make it sound clever still.
So like I just listened to the people and the comments before. I spoke to Stella about this the other night about getting an external, a non-football, right? Has to be sporting, but non-football, high performance consultant to come in and firstly do an audit of the club at all levels. And you guys, you think this is funny, but
I agree with it.
But as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that Spurs does as a high performance operation is the match day uncut. Their production.
Right.
Match day uncut as a production are first class.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, it's such a insignificant, part of Spurs.
You talking about on YouTube? Just
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. The match day uncut team, as far as their production, I think is superb. Right. So I think what needs to happen is you need to get the type of manager that is obviously high performance driven, but he should work alongside this consultant. So you've got basically parallel mentalities, one working in the football department, one working in the business operation, and they cooperate and coordinate with the infiltration of high performance principles across the entire club, right? Individually in each of their lanes, but then they coordinate together. I think I just was, throwing some ideas in my brain.
Josh? Do you know what you're describing?
No.
Sir Alex Ferguson was a high performance coach. He won the league in Scotland when nobody could break the Celtic Rangers monopoly. He did it with Aberdeen. He went into Europe.
The last manager to do so as well.
He went into Europe, beat Bayern Munich and Real Madrid with Aberdeen to win a European trophy. So he was high performance. He went to Man United. Him and, was it Edwards? They worked like that. And he told them, why are you not bringing the youngsters through? What's going on with the academy? He went and introduced himself to the man that cuts the grass and said, I want your team to be the best at cutting the grass. He worked with him. What you described is exactly what Man United did when they hired Sir Alex Ferguson. But the thing is, they listened to Sir Alex. They listened to him. You've described something similar to that. And look what happened to Man U under Fergie. Yeah.
And look, I think that's the right model. I think the manager, someone has to be the figurehead, right? I think whoever this consultant that comes in, I think they need to be subservient to the manager. But as far as the values and the principles that they're trying to be the cornerstone or the foundation of the club, they have to be on exactly the same page. Because it's not just, like you said, the person who cuts the grass. It's the person who sets the tables in the boardroom or in the boxes, or who paints the lines.
Yeah, he spoke to the tea lady and everyone, didn't he? Yeah.
So that's what I mean, and I think, and you might think that some people might think, far out, that's a stretch. Spurs need that. Spurs is like a Ferrari with one gear.
Yeah,
that's what Spurs is.
Right?
A Ferrari with a Ford engine.
Exactly. So it's this beautiful ideology of a club, and I was in London a few weeks ago. I walked around the grounds. It was just amazing to see the golden cockerel and all this. It was just phenomenal, like feeling, But they're just perennial underachievers because of their decision making.
Hmm. You know any high performance people you can bring into the club? They're gonna need it, man.
Well, Stell's going to put my name forward, but
I'm going to speak to Ben and Sim. I've got your email. I think we need to contact the club and
show him this interview. Yeah. Show him this interview. Oh man, we got such a long way to go, man, don't we, Josh?
Yeah, look, we do, but again, we're not defeated, right?
Well, it kind of feels that way this evening, but tomorrow's another day.
That's it. We're not defeated. We've just got to keep our chins up and just believe that things can turn. And I don't know what's it's going to take, whether ENIC has to sell or they start looking for someone external to the club to come in and give them some advice on how to change things around. But I still think they have to keep Frank. And I remember last season saying that the only thing that would save us would be getting relegated. And because there are times, I remember when we were losing, and I just said, "Hey guys, it needs to get darker yet. It needs to get darker yet. We're not there. We're not at rock bottom."
It's actually interesting about the relegation thing, because we got relegated under Keith Birkinshaw back in the 70s. And, some Spurs fans, I remember my dad saying, that season when we were in division below was one of the best seasons he's ever enjoyed. And we came back up, we won FA Cups, we won UEFA Cups, and a lot of success followed that.
I think now with the money and the contracts for sponsors and NFL and all these things now, getting relegated is a different ballgame to the 70s and 80s. Getting relegated now would be devastating for Tottenham. But I get the thinking behind it, though. I'm not against the thinking. I'm just deeply concerned about the consequences.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying I want to get relegated.
I get it. Maybe it's the wake up you need. I know, I get it, but it's freaking mad.
But again, if you go back to that window of time when they were relegated, you can only come up with the solutions that are required when the environment gets to that degree. Right? Yeah. This is what Spurs have mastered. They've mastered not getting to that dark time, because whatever's happening internally at the club. And look, I remember when Levy was sacked, and my take on that was, be careful what you wish for, because the ideal situation was for him to stay around in his business capacity, but to be the check signer. He needed to be clearly removed from the football department.
He wouldn't do it though.
No, I know. Yeah, I know.
He was too much of a micromanager, like to micromanage every single facet of the football club.
At the end of the day,
and that was his downfall.
How many chairmen own part of the club the way Levy did, like 30%? I don't know how common that is in the Premier League for the chairman to be a significant owner of the club as well. I'm not too sure about that.
But also on top of that, how often is it you get a chairman that sits and eats with the players at lunch and all that kind of stuff? And if a player's not playing for a manager, instead of taking it up with the manager saying, "Look, I'm going to go speak to Daniel about this," and all that, like, he was just too involved on a day-to-day thing.
But he's not there now. He's not here.
Well, I was just thinking too, like, what's wrong with Frank? I heard you guys ask that question. He's too inoffensive.
Yeah,
he's too inoffensive. He doesn't risk offending people. You have to do that if you're going to be a winner, or if you are a winner.
He had no problem snapping back at the fans today, though.
Yeah, but that's the wrong. I'm talking about the playing group.
Yeah.
Josh, can I ask you one quick question? Because I know there's a lot of people that want to come on. Do you have a breaking point where you say, "That's it, enough, we can't keep the manager"? Is there that moment where you say, "This is it, enough"? Or do you just say, "I don't care, it's got to go all the way to the end of the season, even if we lose every single game"?
He's saying we need to get relegated.
No, I think, to be honest, and I said this to you still the other night, I thought that we need to keep him around but in the hope that the operation of Tottenham will be able to find the things that they need to change. I think today's loss, whether he stays or goes, I don't think it matters anymore. I think today's loss was so damaging that I think we're at a point now, whether he stays or whether he goes, I really don't think it has any bearing on whether or not the club will get to the point where they actually can identify the things that need to change. Whether
You saying that in the space of 3 games says to me that I think a lot of fans right now, I don't think they care anymore. I don't think they care. Keep him, sack him, whatever, do what you want. It's just whatever. I think fans would they're not bothered what decisions made.
Yeah, well, I remember, because I've tracked obviously this channel, for the last few years, and I remember still, I was really curious to watch the evolution of your perspective on Ange And I pinpointed it directly. You said it today. It was the Frankfurt away game where it just the balance of how you were viewing him and his future tenure at the club, and it's interesting. Our opinions on a lot of things
have. Call me a flip flop.
No, mate. I flip flop. I said 4 nights ago. I said he has to stay, and now I'm like, whatever, But that's what happens when you have more information. You're allowed to change your opinion. Today was a lot of information.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, that's a good point. That today was a lot of information.
Yeah. Oh, no, Josh, absolutely fantastic call. Look forward to speaking to you on more fan
Thanks,
shows,
guys.
mate.
Yeah, I'd love to jump on. Have a good night.
Good night, mate.